to Cornwall Seal Group Research Trust's virtual conference, Sharing Our Seas, Seals and People. We are excited to share an inspirational series of talks exploring a variety of aspects of seal conservation in the UK. And it's our 20th birthday. In that time, we've done 35,000 plus surveys, processed over 1 million photos for 72,000 plus seal IDs. To make sure we can continue this important work, check out our website to join our Wild Seal Supporter Scheme, back our crowdfunding campaign, or shop in our online store. Thank you for your support.
Hello, my name is Natalie Waddington and I'm the Veterinary Support Coordinator at British Divers Marine Life Rescue. For those of you who haven't heard of us, we are a national charity formed back in 1988 and we respond to call-outs from the public to marine animals in distress. We attend these call-outs via a network of trained volunteers who have completed our one-day marine mammal medic course. Around 90% of our calls are to seals and 10% to cetaceans, which include porpoises, dolphins and whales. And then we also get a few calls to other species such as seabirds and turtles. So here I want to mention some of the reasons that we get called out to seals, and more specifically to seal pups. This photo shows a young grey seal pup that still has its white fluffy coat, so it's still dependent on its mother for nutrition. Sadly, these young pups can become separated from their mother for a variety of reasons. For example, if they are physically separated during a storm, or if the pup is disturbed by human contact and that crucial maternal bond gets disrupted. These separated pups are a real cause for concern and we frequently are called to assess them. Though it's really important to note that we have to be very sure they are truly separated from their mother before we step in. So often we have to monitor them for a period of time first. Here we can see a weaned grey seal pup, no longer dependent on mum, but it's showing clear signs of being seriously malnourished. This sadly seems to happen quite frequently where pups do not learn quickly enough how to feed themselves after weaning at only around 3 weeks old. They also become malnourished if they have concurrent illnesses or injuries. The vast majority of our call-outs will be to malnourished seal pups during the pupping seasons. Unfortunately, seal pups also frequently become injured, either, for example, during storms and rough seas, where we might see broken bones and wounds, or we also commonly see bite injuries from other seals, and occasionally dogs. The photo shows a pup with a very swollen, likely infected hind flipper, resulting from a bite injury. So these cases can be very serious and need urgent veterinary intervention. We also sadly see seals entangled in marine litter, and most often this is fishing line of some sort. This is extremely dangerous in pups because as they grow, this material doesn't give way and actually cuts into them as they get bigger. As you can imagine, this is incredibly painful and no doubt leads to a lot of suffering, as well as an impaired ability to swim and catch their food. Again, some of these cases can be very serious and the resulting wounds can take a long time to heal. Eye conditions are common in seal pups. Seals' eyes are quite comparatively large and exposed, so they're vulnerable to trauma, and we can see lots of problems as a result that again may need prolonged courses of treatment. And also just to mention that we do occasionally attend adult seals, but often these are sadly either very sick or very old individuals that require humane euthanasia, too dangerous for us to approach, unless we have a very experienced team and specialist equipment at hand. When our volunteers attend a seal pup, they will assess the situation very carefully before deciding if they need to intervene with the pup or not. Often pups will need to be carefully caught and restrained in order for a full assessment to be carried out of its condition, and then any first aid measures put in place. This often includes rehydrating them via a stomach tube with some fluids and electrolytes. A decision is then made as to whether they need to be taken in for a period of rehabilitation, or they may just need relocating to a quieter location if it's busy with people, or some can just be immediately released if all is well. We also attend stranded cetaceans, and that could be anything from a 1.5 metre long harbour porpoise to a 20 metre long fin whale. Cetaceans can strand for a whole variety of reasons. They may be very sick or injured or very old, and that might be the reason that they strand as they become increasingly weak and disorientated. Or sometimes we see animals that appear to be healthy strand, and these cases can sometimes be put down to the animal making a navigational error or perhaps stranding accidentally while chasing prey. The top left photo shows a very thin dolphin which is likely to have an underlying serious illness. The top middle photo shows a fin whale in the surf, again likely stranded due to illness. The bottom left photo is a striped dolphin, which was revealed at post-mortem to have a serious infection, which explains why it had stranded. And sadly, we also see maternal separation in cetaceans too, such as with this harbour porpoise calf in the bottom right photo. Unfortunately, there's very little we can do for these calves unless their pod is spotted nearby, and sadly, often humane euthanasia is our only option. Our volunteers can provide these stranded cetaceans with the first aid that they urgently need. Crucially, this involves getting them lying on their front, keeping the skin wet, preventing overheating and keeping them as comfortable as possible, trying to take the pressure off their bodies that aren't designed to be on land. For example, using the airbed in the top right photo. Keeping these animals as relaxed as possible is really important. Usually a vet is called to the scene to perform a thorough assessment and make the final decision as to whether we can attempt to refloat and release the cetacean, or whether sadly euthanasia is required. Top left photo there shows a stranded pilot whale that's on its side, so we'd really quickly want to get that corrected. Top right and bottom left show common dolphins being supported and their skin protected using wet bed sheets or seaweed. And bottom right shows our specialist pontoons, which are used to assist with refloating large animals such as pilot whales. And now we just wanted to give you an idea of the numbers of call-outs we attend and when. This bar chart illustrates our total national number of call-outs from the past few years. So in 2016 we had 868 call-outs in total. This increased to 1,136 in 2017, and you can see it continues to rise by about 20 to 25% each year. So far this year we've had about 696 call-outs, slightly more than the 652 we were at this time last year. Why are we seeing these increasing figures? There are a few reasons. Firstly, there's a growing awareness of BDMLR and our work, so more people are aware of who to call. We also have an increasing number of people living on the coast and visiting during the tourist seasons. More people out and about means it's more likely an animal will be noticed and called in, but on the other hand it does obviously also lead to more opportunities for wildlife disturbance that can itself create call-outs. And finally, with climate change, we are seeing an increasing frequency and severity of storms, particularly during the grey seal pupping season, which definitely contributes to the rising figures seen here. This graph shows our national call-outs by month over the past few years, which I'll just play through. The dark blue line is 2016, and then 2017, 2018, 2019, and then the start of 2020 here. The peaks over July and August coincide with the common seal pupping season, and the peaks during the winter, particularly December, coincide with the grey seal pupping season and the worst of the storms, as well as the Christmas holidays, partly why there is such a large peak here. As you can see, last December was another record-breaking one, as have been February and March so far this year. The COVID-19 lockdown doesn't seem to have had much of an impact on our call-outs yet, but it will be interesting to see what happens in the coming months. So thank you for listening. I hope you're enjoying the talk so far. I'll pass you over to Dan now, who's going to have a look at our local data and some case studies.
Thanks, Natalie. Hi there, everyone. I'm Dan Jarvis from BDMLR. I work as our Welfare Development and Field Support Officer and also volunteer as an Area Coordinator for Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. We're going to take a closer look at our local call-out data now, and I would note that although this includes all species that we're called out to, over 90% of our call-outs are regarding seals, so they very much drive any trends in our data. In the early years, you can see a long time ago now, it was relatively quiet back then, and as public awareness increased, so did the volume of call-outs that we were receiving, until around the sort of early 2010s it started to plateau out and flatten. After that, though, it seemed the climate changed for the worse, unfortunately, and in autumn and winter we were starting to see regular storms coming in off the Atlantic that have been getting more frequent and more severe. And in the following years, up until the most recent ones, it's been getting exceptionally busy, and especially 2018 was a horrendously bad start to the year with 502 call-outs, 1/3 of our national call-out total. And 2019 actually wasn't much better, even though thinking back now it doesn't feel like it was that bad, but it really has been. So far this year, we've had 143 call-outs between January and April. In the same period in 2019, we had 146, so we're pretty much level pegging, and we can only assume that we've got a lot to look forward to later on this year to do. Breaking it down monthly, we're just going to look at how much the autumn and winter affect the call-out numbers through the year here. So you can see the lines, particularly from September through to February, increase more dramatically than they do compared to summer. And in October of 2017, we've got a big peak thanks to two very significant storms we had at that time, at the peak of our pupping time and on the peak of the high tide, one of them as well. So really the perfect storm of all the worst conditions you could hope for when you're having little baby seal pups. Then we have 2018 with that horrendous start to the year. So we've learned a lot from that experience. It's pretty much the worst case scenario. So there's a lot of new practices and protocols we've put in place to try and deal with that situation when it occurs again, because as call-outs increase and we get more extreme weather events, they are going to happen. And in 2019, you can see December was an exceptionally busy month as well, really. So it's something that we're going to have to get used to as time goes on, that we're going to see these really extreme periods of weather and call-outs to our hotline. So far in 2020, very comparative call-out numbers. March has been our busiest March month on record, but lockdown really doesn't seem to have affected the volume of call-outs that we're getting either. We'll highlight a few examples now where Cornwall Seal Group Research Trust volunteers have worked alongside BDMLR for the well-being of seal pups on other incidents that have been reported to us where we may have needed to give a little bit of assistance to them. This first one here turned up on a public beach, albeit in a very quiet area of it, luckily, and spent 3 days just paddling around in its private little pool here. Had a nice bed of reeds to go and sleep and rest in as well. Didn't cause us really any problems. Unfortunately, didn't get spotted by many people at all. So our role really was just keeping an eye on it, making sure it was all right. But it was a really lovely weight, really big, heavy seal, recently weaned by its mum and molting really heavily out of that white coat. And as soon as it was ready, it went back out into the water by itself. And hopefully he's still out there enjoying life. We've also had incidents where mums have actually given birth to pups on very publicly accessible beaches, such as this one here, who decided to give birth on a very publicly accessible beach on a very sunny half-term week in October quite a few years ago. Now, we actually had permission from the National Trust to close off and cordon the beach, so it would stop people going down there and scaring the mum away from the pup. Otherwise, of course, we'd need to rescue it. So for 2 full days, ourselves and CSGRT volunteers were keeping an eye on things, keeping the public back and talking to them as well about not only our work, but amazing facts about our awesome grey seals that we have here around our coastline and why they're so special to us in this country as well. People were even treated to a few occasions when mum would feed her pup in full view of up to 100 people. So lots and lots of people got really great experiences, positive experiences and wildlife encountering out of this. But sadly, after the second day, some bad weather moved in, and the following morning, sadly, the pup was no longer there. It had been washed out and presumably killed, and the mum frantically was still searching the area for it, and we helped as best as we could, but there was just no sign of the pup at all in the area. So it was a bit of a sad end to that particular case. We've also become very specialised in a very technical type of rescue. Myself, Sue Sayer, Tamara Cooper from the Cornish Seal Sanctuary and others have, over the last 15 years or so, begun abseiling down into certain locations where we can get to particularly entangled seals like this one here. And it's a lot of logistics. There's a lot of thought and planning that needs to go into them. There's a lot of things that need to be thought through before we decide whether it's good to go after a seal in this situation. And sometimes a lot of patience is needed, as it can take weeks or even months to get the right conditions to come together to do one successfully. And over these years, we've done about 32 of these operations and have successfully rescued 30 seals, which is absolutely fantastic, a really good success rate. We also get amazing feedback from the Seal Group volunteers who spot these animals post-rescue. So Lucky Flipper here in these photos, you can see has quite a nasty injury on the neck, but in this last photo that I've brought up now, you can see how amazingly well that healed up, and that was just within a few short weeks of the net being cut away and Lucky Flipper being released again. And we've had sightings of Lucky Flipper since then as well, so it's really great to know that animals like this are surviving what's happened to them and are thriving as well. We'd like to thank all of the many organisations and individuals who help us in the course of our work. So many of them are pictured here on this graphic, but there's many more I'm sure we could thank as well. I'll just shout out that we have a brand new website that's recently relaunched in the last few weeks, so please do pop along and have a good look through there. It's full of lovely brand new information and lots more species information as well that you can read up about, and not just seals but also cetaceans. And we'd like to finish by saying thank you for all of your support. You can follow us on our YouTube, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook social media accounts to find out more about what's going on with us regularly. But we really do hope that you enjoy the rest of this amazing Cornwall Seal Group Research Trust conference.